conversation continues as well. LeBron James is trying to clarify his position on China after his critical remarks about Rockets general manager Daryl Morey's tweet supporting demonstrators in Hong Kong. James was slammed on social media after calling Morey's tweet, quote, misinformed. LeBron James' response Monday led to protests in Hong Kong on Tuesday, with some demonstrators trampling and even burning his jersey. Following practice yesterday, James told reporters he hadn't seen the protest and said he hopes tensions will subside over time.
I feel like I talked about it yesterday. I tweeted out a couple of responses to people not understanding, my knowledge of what it came from my brain and for me learning from the situation. I'm talking about it now, and I won't talk about it again because I'll be cheating my teammates by continuing to harp on something that won't benefit us. Trying to win a championship, because that's what we're here for. We're not politicians. I think it's a huge political thing, but we are leaders, and we can step up at times. But there's times where I'm not saying in this particular instance, but if you don't feel like you should speak upon things, you shouldn't have to. We don't know the landscape of the situation. If a week would have went by and then the tweet would have happened, it's easy to say, but we have no idea. So. It was a challenging trip for all of us that was in China, and if you were not there, then you just can't relate.
James did also reiterate yesterday he does plan going forward to continue addressing issues that he is passionate and knowledgeable about. Meanwhile, the games do continue, and tonight on ESPN, we do have a preseason doubleheader. 8 Eastern, Trae Young and the Hawks, Jay Barrett and the Knicks, RJ Barrett, excuse me. And then at 10:30 Eastern, LeBron's Lakers hosting Steph and the Warriors. That coverage tips off with NBA Countdown at 7 Eastern on ESPN and on the ESPN app. Maria's crushing me. All right, as we continue.
Sixers preview show. Chris Miles here with the Hall of Famer Isaiah Thomas and the Coach of the Year, Sam Mitchell. The last time we saw the 76ers, they were on the wrong end of a historic shot in NBA history. Kawhi Leonard's touch every part of the rim, Game 7 shot. How does a shot like that affect your offseason and the way you go into next year, Isaiah?
The team or Kawhi?
The opposing team, the Philadelphia 76ers.
When you lose like that on such a heartbreaker, the whole summer and every day, you are really thinking about how can I get better, what did I do wrong, and how do I need to improve. And I think that the two guys who took it the hardest was Ben Simmons and Joel Embiid. And I think those two guys went back and worked this summer. I think Embiid worked on his stamina, worked on his conditioning, and I think he's going to come back a better player. Ben Simmons said he worked on his jump shot. Now, I hope Ben Simmons comes back and continues to play and perform well. But I think the most important thing, and I said this last year, Sam, I think the most important thing for Ben Simmons is not his jump shooting, but his foul shooting. If he becomes a better foul shooter,
I agree.
Then he can stay in the game at the end of the game because he's a playmaker. But when he's a poor foul shooter and jump shooter, it's hard to have him out on the floor at the end of the game.
Sam, before we talk about Ben Simmons, that's later in the show because he gets his entire section with the way that he shoots. But getting back to the Kawhi shot and how that could linger in the offseason or the next season, as a coach, how do you approach that? Do you address that immediately, or do you not talk about it at all?
Well, you address it. And this is the thing. It should be fuel for the fire. Think about that shot. Joel Embiid has one of the best off seasons ever. He loses 20 pounds. To Isaiah's point, Ben Simmons now understands that, it's one thing to talk about improving your jump shot like all players do. It's another thing to get in the gym and put the work in. And then you look at what Elton Brand and that front office did. Look at the players that they signed. Look how they revamped this roster. Yeah, they lost a little outside shooting when they lost J.J. Redick. But when you look at the potential this team has defensively, and then last but not least, if Joel Embiid can play 71 games, and to Zeke's point, if Ben Simmons can become a 68 to 72% free throw shooter to where he's not a liability at the end of the game, this Philadelphia 76ers team could be scary because you look at what Milwaukee lost from shooting and they lost Brogdon, and you look at what Philly added. I mean, this is the right time for Philadelphia if Joel Embiid can stay healthy. That's the key. If he can play 71 games and go into the playoffs healthy for the first time, then we'll see what Philadelphia finally can be.
Well, then that makes it interesting, the signing of Al Horford, 4 years, $109 million. He's a guy that's a proven all-star, proven to be a guy in the postseason that steps up and can be a leader. But when you look at him next to Joel Embiid, it doesn't seem like the best fit. So why did they bring him in? How does he work with Joel Embiid as a tandem?
You ask, what do you do after a shot like that? You go sign a man, a grown man, a pro. Think about it. No disrespect to the Philadelphia 76ers, but what's Al Horford's biggest strength? Yeah, he's a solid player on both ends of the floor, but Al Horford's biggest strength is that he's a man. He's the consummate pro. And now when he walks in that locker room and you see the type of teams he played on, you look at his career, he's quiet, but he's steady. He's a man. He brings peace, calmness to this locker room, a certain level of professionalism, and you're going to see the best of Joel Embiid this year because Al comes to camp in shape. Al plays 82 games. Al's in the right place offensively and defensively every night. So I think what Elton Brand was looking at, the production offensively with Al Horford, but all the other things that he's going to bring to this team and the mentality, I think the time is right. If Philadelphia, look, you hate to say this, but Philadelphia can't get it right and get it done with this group.
Yeah.
It's hard to see this group of this management putting together a better team than what they put together thus far.
Yeah, and I'll say this, to expand on your point about Al is that, what the numbers talk about is, his stats, so forth and so on. But winning is about your emotional impact and your psychological impact that you have on the team and on the opponent that allows you to get those numbers. And what you talked about in terms of Al being a man, he's a man that brings that emotional, psychological impact to a team, a very young team. When you talk about Embiid and Simmons being the leaders of the team, we look at them from a talent perspective and a skill perspective, but we don't look at them from their intellectual and their emotional growth in terms of how they're going to respond to certain situations. So, what Elton Brand did, you're 100% right, is he didn't say, who can get me 15 points and 10 rebounds? He said, who could bring emotional and psychological stability to my team? And that's why we're going to pay Horford.
And see, Chris, there's a problem with professional sports is that we always want the best player to be the leader. So we try to, sometimes the best player is not a leader. When you look at Philadelphia, their best players could develop into great leaders, but they're young. Okay? Al Horford, when he walks in the door, he's going to command instant respect from everybody on that team and everybody in the front office. So I think it was a great sign, a great pickup. And I have Philadelphia coming out of the East this year.
I mean, you can look at Horford and say, okay, this guy one day when he's done playing, he can be a congressman, right?
Yep.
He can run for the Senate. He has that type of, presence. And when you put that on your basketball team, it definitely uplifts it.
Well, let's see if the jumper of Ben Simmons can be uplifted as well. Videos have surfaced this summer of Ben knocking down jumpers. Recently, he caught up with Jared Greenberg at 76ers Media Day.
We want to do it for ourselves and our team. It's not for the people who were, talking to us on social media and things like that. At the end of the day, we love our fans. No matter what, we love when they, let us know when we're not doing well, but we love when they support us too. And I've had that in Game 1 against Brooklyn when they were going at me. And I give it back to the fans and let them know that I love them. It's a lot of love, and they want to see us do well. And that's why, I'm so happy to be here for another 5 years. And it's just an exciting time.
All right, you know where I'm going next, right?
I don't.
Come on, Ben. We sat here 1 year ago, you and I, and we had a conversation about what you did over the summer. So before I even get to what we may or may not see this year, what was the reason, if you could take us and give us a little insight as to why you worked last summer on a jump shot and we never saw a perimeter game from you during the season last year?
I think the difference with this summer and last summer was I got into a place where I was working, but it wasn't on the same level. And I think this summer has been completely different to where, I just don't care. I'm going to work. I'm going to miss shots. I'll probably airball a few, whatever. It's going to happen. But I'm also going to make shots. And at the end of the day, that's how you get better. Because if everybody was perfect, then we'd have
A lot more.
Hundreds of tons of banners or whatever it is. So no one's perfect. No one player is perfect. Now I was able to be an all-star without that aspect of my game last season, and just adding that is a scary thing.
So is it, just trying to analyze what you said there, was it as simple as you felt last year the confidence level wasn't where it needed to be taken?
I'm confident now, and it's not just about confident shooting the ball. It's just a confident player. I'm not worried about what people are going to say.
So is there a goal, or is there a number in terms of, let's just talk 3-point shots?
My goal is to hang a banner up there.
Right.
It's not. I'm not trying to shoot as many take a certain amount of threes or whatever it is. I'm going to take what the game gives me.
What about the free throw shooting?
Yeah.
How much have you worked on that aspect of your game?
All summer. All summer.
And what did you find? Was it mechanical? Was it above the shoulders?
It's repetition, repping the right way and doing the right things, and finding a place where you feel comfortable.
Great interview by our colleague Jared Greenberg, because there's so much to break down. Let's take a look at this graphic, and it's easy to look at the 3-point shot. Yeah, he took 6 of them, but the league average for shots inside the paint but outside the restricted area, Ben Simmons was beneath the league average there. And then from 10 feet and beyond, he only took 67 shots and shot 20% from the field in what we essentially call the mid-range now. So, Sam, when you see those numbers,
I want you to go to Zeke first.